Alright, I don't think I've got any skills to alter, necessarily. Well, we might be able to buy some stuff. Let's take a look. E-handbook. Because I think we've got some, new, hope fragments. We have 3. So, what? We could get downshift or upshift. What do these actually do? Reduces your aiming speed? So that's just if I have a problem with the sensitivity of the mouse, which I don't, so... Yeah. Well, during Hangman's Gambit, specifically. I don't think I've got an issue with that, really. I imagine that's probably more applicable if this released on consoles first. For, like, analog stick movement, but a mouse, like, that's a problem. Okay, well, I guess let's take a look at the... I think everything's set up how we wanted from last trial, right? We got Menacing Focus, Moonsault, Fine Sword, Moodmaker. I'm still not entirely clear what cheat code actually does. Because I feel like the time doesn't decrease still. But whatever. Envious Influence. But I think we've got a different influence one right now from Sonya, which actually, no, is that it? Is probably the new one? Greatly increases influence gauge, effective during class trial. Cannot be combined with attentive. Because, yeah, we only maxed out Sonya's relationship during the last chapter, so, during this chapter. So, yeah, and I don't think that undoes anything we care about. Okay. Let's take a look at the handbook and the truth bullets. We don't have a ton this time, so let's see if we can come to some sort of theory of the case. Alright, so the victim is Nagito Komeda. The body was discovered inside the warehouse near the Monokuma plushie factory. The estimated time of death is believed to be at noon sharp. Not only is there a spear stabbed in his stomach, there are multiple stab wounds on each of his thighs. Furthermore, there is a laceration in his left arm and a knife impaled through his right hand. Both of Nagito's legs were tied with rope, and each rope was tied to a nearby pillars, which prevented him from moving. His thighs were also covered with a lot of stab wounds. The rope that was tied to Nagito's right arm burned off. However, Nagito's right sleeve still looked clean. A survival knife that was stabbed into Nagito's right hand. The knife is from the military base. It's safe to assume that the wounds on Nagito's legs and left arm were caused by this knife. I wish I had Mikan to confirm that, but oh well. Blood was splattered on the palm of Nagito's left hand. For some reason, the splatter cuts off in the middle of his palm. Also, the back of his left hand has an unnatural bloodstain that's only above the middle joints of his fingers. So clearly he was he was making a fist or grabbing something at the time he was being stabbed. What, though? Nagito's mouth was covered with duct tape. However, the blood that splattered onto his face wasn't under the duct tape. The tape itself had a lot of crinkles in it, as if Nagito was desperately moving his mouth underneath it. The spear impaled through Nagito's stomach. A cord with an iron weight at the end of it extends from the back of the handle. For some reason, only the section where the cord and weight touch is bloody. And could that be what Nagito is holding? Because it doesn't make sense to hold it there if you're wielding it as a weapon. Really, because you're not getting the leverage or reach you want. A life-size Monokuma plushie that was found on the floor near the fire's origin point. It has a huge bloody hole in its stomach as if it were stabbed. A faint red line was on the ceiling girder inside the goods warehouse. Yeah, that's a big one. Like, what could have caused that? A lot of tipped-over Monokuma panels were scattered around the goods warehouse in one area. The panels seemed to be laying on top of each other in a straight orderly line. So the fire, then, because this is presumably what caused the fire. I bet these were tipped over, and they had, like, were the root cause of the lighter, like falling on the curtains and lighting that up, which implies the fire was intentional. The question is why? Why was the fire lit? Found at the fire's origin point, it looks like this is what caused the fire. An MP3 player that comes with speakers. The music that was blaring through out of the warehouse when Hajime and the others arrived was coming from this. Sonia secretly used one of the bombs from the military base at the ancient ruins and found out that the bombs were fake. At the time, Monokuma was apparently peeking at the whole thing. Monokuma knew all along that the bombs were fake, however he apparently never revealed that fact to anyone. The diary that Monokuma updated every day, or did she? According to Monokuma, Monokuma can't write. These were hidden at Nagato's cottage under his bed. So at some point he was working with noxious chemicals. Why? Found at Nagato's cottage under his bed is a round, thin piece of aluminum paper. Poison found inside the refrigerator at Nagato's cottage. The warning label on the back of the bottle states, "This enchanted liquid is highly potent and takes effect immediately. Please handle with care. Though its volatility is low, this liquid is very dangerous when vaporized." In a... Could that be why you start the fire? To evaporate the liquid? The poison? But what does that do? It is heavier than air, it breaks down in minutes, and it is susceptible to hydrolysis. So it's possible for you to poison someone to death without any complications. Keep this liquid secure by storing it in a cool place with a glass or plastic container away from sunlight. This file contains the Hope Seek Academy student profiles for all 16 students participating in the school trip. Due to the fact that Monokuma forged the traitor's profile, looking at this won't help identify who the traitor is. Okay. Poison and fire grenades? I don't know. I guess it's a possibility. But like, to what end? I have no idea what's going to happen, honestly. I don't really have a theory of this case. Something odd is going on here, I think.
Now then, let's begin with a simple explanation of the class trial.
Now we're on to like the actual trial part. Let me know if the but the voice acting in the game is too low relative to me. I can turn it up if it's not good.
During the class trial, you will present your arguments for who the killer is and vote for who done it.
Huh. Nagato's X is different than a lot of the others, interestingly.
If you vote correctly, then only the blackened will receive punishment.
How do we determine who gets like a special X and who gets just the generic one? Because I thought it was only killers got the unique X. That had been the rule up to this point, right? So you see Gundam's X is like an actual like X with like a font as compared to like Maharu's and or Dancer Girl, who have just like the normal, almost papyrus looking X.
I'll punish everyone besides
you can see
the blackened,
Mikan has the
and
X that kind of looks like a
right
medical cross.
Island.
So that already has me kind of confused, because like normally the victims don't get customized X's.
Oh my, Monami? My cute little sister? You're awfully quiet. What's happened to you? You've ascended the ladder of adulthood and reached the moon? Because you're a rabbit? Chesto!
Whoa. This is sending mixed messages, Monokuma. She's finally acting how you want her to, and now you're punching her? Oh, look at me.
One more time! Jeez! How about this one? This will be my final blow!
He really dislikes her. Oh.
It's useless.
Please stop! I feel bad for Monomi.
You're right. Now's not the time for me to horse around with Monami. The class trial has started, after all. The victim this time is Nagito, who was attempting to reveal the traitor for everyone's sake. Who in the world killed him? I'm so curious.
If he was killed for trying to reveal the traitor, That traitor is obviously the killer. They were trying to shut Nagito up.
Possibly. Which could be unrelated.
No, that might not be it.
Huh? Are you trying to protect the traitor? They didn't call out when we were in danger. Wait. Don't tell me you're the traitor.
Don't say something so stupid. There's no way in hell I'm the traitor.
Now that's more like it. Why don't you guys hurry and start arguing already?
The traitor and the killer who murdered Nagito. No, the traitor is not necessarily the fake Byakuya. The fake Byakuya was just the ultimate imposter. He was just like a master of disguise, and that was his talent. As far as we're aware, he was actually on the school roster. And yeah, so the traitor's here, right? Are they the same person? Or...
The killer didn't tape Nagito's mouth to shut him up. I'm telling you, they were torturing him.
Could be.
The reason Nagito's body was covered with wounds.
It's because the killer tortured Nagito.
Well, I mean,
so that's
possible.
why he was so beat up. What were they trying to find out by torturing him? Definitely the bomb's hiding place.
Maybe.
So, the suspect is whoever found the bomb first.
That was Fuyuhiko.
I found it by coincidence. There's no way I'd torture someone.
Says the Yakuza guy. Why did the killer have to torture Nagito? No. Were the wounds on Nagito's body really caused by torture in the first place? Like, so what do we got here? We got the torture wounds, the accounts, the oil lighter, the panels, the plushies,
The reason
the duct
Nagito's
tape,
body
and
was
the
covered with
survival knife.
wounds.
What do we know about the torture wounds, specifically? We're tied with rope, nearby pillars. We also have the Monokuma panels. So what are we trying to prove here?
So that's why he was so beat up. What were they trying to find out by torturing him? Definitely the bomb's hiding place.
I mean, we could use the duct tape, maybe.
If so,
Oh, okay, the duct tape actually proves it, doesn't it?
is whoever found the bomb
Because if they wanted
That was Fuyuhiko.
to get... Because if the
found it
blood
by
splatter
coincidence.
comes from the knife wounds that are supposedly
There's
the
no way
torture
I'd
wounds.
torture someone.
Right,
The killer didn't tape Nagito's mouth to shut him up. I'm telling you, they were torturing him.
The reason Nagito's body was covered
like-
with wounds.
you wouldn't have the duct tape
It's
on his
because
mouth
the
if you're trying to
killer
get
tortured
answers. That's
No,
what it
that's
is.
wrong.
This is a kind of my first reaction to the duct tape, actually.
But Nagito's mouth was covered with duct tape, so he wouldn't have been able to confess anything. If he was being tortured for information, they wouldn't have taped his mouth like that.
I'm prepared.
Okay. What's your counter arguments?
I just realized it. It's a trap.
Trap?
Stupid Hajime. You got caught in that trap.
We'll see who's stupid after this debates. Stupid? There's so many things it could be. Let's just go on the survival knife for now.
Like you said, if Nagito's mouth was taped shut, you obviously assume he couldn't talk, right? But that was the trap. He wanted to hide the fact that he got interrogated.
Okay.
But if you tape his mouth shut, how is he supposed to answer anything?
Pay attention. This is how it went down. First, the killer tortured Nagito and got information about the bomb's location.
Okay.
Then, after they killed him,
Oh, hold on.
they
Wait.
duct taped his mouth shut.
Okay, well, it's not after they killed him, right? because I think duct tape proves this. Yeah, the blood that splattered onto his face wasn't under the cut, so the duct tape had to have been in place while he's getting stabbed. So we're going to be using duct tape as the
That was close, you
contradiction.
guys. Thanks to me, you guys didn't get caught in the trap.
They taped Nagito's mouth after getting information from him? Sure, that sounds reasonable. But it clearly contradicts the truth. If he had listened to me until the very end, I wouldn't have to go through the trouble of repeating
Pay
myself.
attention. This is how it went down.
Yeah,
First, the killer tortured Nagito
unlikely.
and got him. Then, after they killed him,
Nope.
Allow me to
Impossible.
cut through those words. No, there's no doubt Nagito's mouth was covered with duct tape before he was beat up.
What did you say?
Who cares about the duct tape? Might as well settle this with rock, paper, scissors.
That's kind of dismissive, Akane.
We don't need to play a game. It's clear the duct tape was on his mouth before the torture even began.
Why do you always side with Hajime? Do you have a crush on him or something?
Well, I mean, it helps that I'm always right. Are you in elementary school or something?
You were with us when I peeled the duct tape off Nagito's mouth, right? The blood on Nagito's face wasn't under the duct tape, remember?
The blood on his face came from his arm wounds, which means the duct tape was on his face before his arms were even wounded.
And the duct tape had a lot of crinkles around his mouth. He must have been struggling to open his mouth under the duct tape.
Perhaps the duct tape was used so we wouldn't be able to scream.
Seems likely.
Then it's like I said at the beginning. The tape wasn't for torture. It was to keep his mouth shut.
However, if they wanted to seal his mouth, they did not need to hurt him with such ferocity.
Yes.
They probably had a deep grudge against Nagito.
Which doesn't really narrow it down much, does it?
Then, are you saying the killer was trying to make him suffer?
If so, it's friggin' crazy. Did they go psycho or something?
No, they didn't just go crazy. Whoever did this must be one crafty bastard. If not, they wouldn't have taken the time to set fire to the crime scene and destroy all the evidence.
The warehouse fire was for destroying evidence?
Well, it's weird though, because the fire didn't actually impact any of the evidence. Or at least any of the evidence we know about. I guess there could be evidence that was actually destroyed with the fire that we just don't know about because it was destroyed.
We can't think of any other reason.
But who could have done that? When the fire occurred, everyone in this room was gathered in front of the warehouse.
Yeah. And right after I opened the warehouse door, the flames started burning from the very back.
Which means it is plausible to think that nobody here set the fire.
The killer isn't one of us. But that's not the case, huh? I mean, it's wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Even if it was only a coincidence, the timing was just too perfect.
Based on the pattern up until now, we should suspect that some kind of setup was used for this.
Some kind of setup? Like what?
I do not know that, but that has been the pattern before.
That's our Miss Sonia. You have such an amazingly high intellect. Alrighty then, let's think about this based on what Miss Sonia thinks. Is that okay, Miss Sonia?
Damn right it is!
The reason for the fire, huh? Alright, we need to clear that up first. Sonya has some of the best delivery of lines, just like in isolation, out of context. I think the panels is probably what's gonna be relevant here.
The direct cause of the fire was the oil lighter found at the crime scene, right?
Seems likely.
The killer used some kind of setup. He lit the curtain on fire with the lighter.
Ellipses.
Some kind of setup?
Did they use the oil as an improvised fuse?
They probably just threw the lighter.
No.
Based on the shape of that oil lighter, it can stand upright while the flame is lit.
If they tipped over the lighter in some way, it could have ignited the curtain.
Some way?
Maybe they used invisible thread.
Not quite.
There should have been a way to tip it over with sound waves.
Or
With
perhaps
sound waves?
opening the door caused.
Yeah, with the
I
Monokuma
agree with
panels.
that.
Good work there, Sonia.
I also agree that opening the door is what started the fire.
Just as I thought, it was the wind pressure. A dust devil blown here from glorious Japan.
Not exactly.
No, not wind pressure. They probably used the Monokuma panels. A huge number of tipped-over Monokuma panels were found at the crime scene, right? It looked like they were scattered everywhere, but some were laying on top of each other in a single line. Just a single line leading from the warehouse door to the fire's origin.
Does that mean
Yeah, like
anything?
dominoes. Exactly.
The killer probably arranged those Monokuma panels to create a domino effect.
A domino effect. You mean those tiles kids play with by lining them up and tipping them over?
In place of those tiles, the killer used the Monokuma panels. So when we opened the warehouse door, the first panel toppled into the second,
It's a nice diagram.
and from there, they fell like dominoes until they reached the lighter at the end.
But wouldn't it be obvious that those big panels were falling over?
That's probably why they turned off the lights in the warehouse, so we wouldn't notice them.
So the reason the warehouse was dark was to hide the domino effect.
And one more thing. There was something else the killer did to hide the domino effect, right?
And I guess scatter some Monokumas around. The killer did one other thing to hide the domino effect. Oh, the MP3 player, that's why it exists. That way, the sound from the MP3 player, the music, would drown out the sound of the Monokuma's fall.
I see!
Oh, good catch there, Chiaki.
You're talking about the MP3 player, right? That hymn blaring throughout the warehouse masked the sound of the falling panels.
The inside of the warehouse felt even darker because our eyes were still used to the bright sunlight outside. It was in that darkness a loud hymnal blared throughout the warehouse at full volume. Hey, do you guys hear something? Yeah, it's really damn loud. Does Nagito like listening to this depressing crap? No, I'm not talking about the music. And as if on cue, it suddenly started.
That's it. So the strange sound was actually the sound of the panels falling.
But those sounds weren't the only strange thing, right? Looking back on it, it was also strange when we opened the door to the warehouse.
It's fine, I'll open it slowly. No, that's not the problem. Seriously, it'll be fine. With those words, Akane brushed off everyone's warnings and slowly opened the door to the warehouse. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Huh, it's not opening. There's something blocking the door, I can barely open it. I knew it, it's a trap. Seriously, just stop it, okay? Didn't I tell you it'll be fine? I just gotta use a little more force. What happened to opening it slowly? Akane ignored their protests, and with a mighty kick, the door flew open.
Ah, so the door was being blocked by a Monokuma panel.
And when we opened the door, the domino effect started, and the falling panels eventually reached the lighter.
Yeah, and that's how the warehouse caught on fire. At least, that's how it looks.
What do you mean by that?
You don't look so sure.
At the time, Akane mentioned that she could barely open the door.
Because the panel was blocking it, right?
But the blocked doorway, there wasn't enough space for a person to fit through, right?
Yeah, that's a bit of a problem, isn't it?
Is that a problem?
It's a major problem. I mean, that door was the only entrance to the warehouse.
If that door was the only entrance to the warehouse. I see, so the problem Chiaki is talking about is they could have been inside. The killer couldn't have left, indeed.
I see! If the panel was so close to the door that it could barely be opened, the killer inside the warehouse wouldn't be able to leave, right?
Now that you mention it.
Does that mean they were hiding inside?
Who? We were all outside the warehouse, you know.
But Based on the patterns up until now, I believe some kind of setup was used.
And there must be another way in or out of the warehouse, right? Like, that's got to be the solution here. We don't have any evidence pointing to
You
that.
don't have to think so hard. There's actually only one person who could have possibly done this.
Chuck, are you implying that Nagato set this up himself? Why? I mean, unless he had some crazy ploy to, like, make it look like he was being hunted by the traitor. For some reason. Huh?
You don't mean...
But if that's true, this murder...
Hajime? What do you mean?
The person who set up the domino effect inside the warehouse... There's only one person who could have done that. I mean, based on the information we have available, if there really is no other way in there... But this... What?
This is my answer. What if it was Nagito?
Why'd you bring him up? He's the victim, you know.
He wasn't just the victim. Maybe.
Huh?
Not just the victim? What does that mean?
He was the victim. And he was the perpetrator, too. Maybe.
I mean, maybe. Like, I could see a world where maybe he was setting up some sort of intricate, like, thing and it backfired, I guess.
Are you saying this was a suicide? Don't be stupid. His body was covered in torture wounds. Or did you already forget?
Been tough to tie himself up. Granted, he has a free hand, right? It's like, as long as you could tie... Right? In theory, if you burn that rope initially, so his right hand is never actually bound to anything. Like, yeah, you could definitely get the legs. And then I think one hand could tie something along the other hand. Certainly you could stab yourself in the legs. And hand and arm. And then, I don't know, then you just have the spear going on, I guess. But, like, why?
Are you saying those were all self-inflicted?
But Nagito might do something like that, don't you think?
I mean, he is kind of crazy.
That's not the issue. He was tied up, remember? Even for a creep like Nagito, it'd be impossible for him to tie up his own arms and legs.
Not if his right arm was never actually tied up, though.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, as long as you understand.
It seems we need to discuss how Nagito was able to tie himself up.
Need to discuss? That's not necessary at all. No matter how much you think about it, it's clearly impossible.
Like you said, it seems impossible if you think about it, but I feel like I'm overlooking something. His right arm was never tied up. Yeah. That's gotta be it. It's the burned rope.
To actually tie up your own arms and legs. That's obviously impossible!
Tying just the legs is one thing, but tying both arms would be impossible.
You couldn't do much with the free arm.
It'd be impossible if you were by yourself.
How about if you use your teeth?
Teeth? No.
Or if you use your front tail?
Front tail? What?
Dirty joke! Is that a dirty joke?
If our assumption that Nagito committed suicide is correct, Nagito should have tied himself up too. That's okay, right? What
To
do we...
actually tie up your own arms and legs. That's obviously impossible!
Tying just the legs is one thing, but tying both arms would be impossible.
You couldn't do much with the free arm.
It'd be impossible if you were by yourself.
How about if you use your teeth?
And he's
Or
not
if you
using his
use your
teeth.
front tail.
And we could, like, maybe this? Okay, I didn't think so. I don't know about that. Kuchikamaru looks pretty strong, but I never saw Nagito, so I'm pretty sure he wasn't that big anyway. I made a mistake. Okay, okay.
To actually tie up your own arms and legs.
Let's see.
That's obviously impossible.
Like,
Tying just
I feel
the
like I know
legs
the
is one thing,
answer.
tying both arms would be impossible.
Because you could
You
definitely tie
couldn't do
one
much
arm.
with the free arm.
Like, what
It'd be
can we contradict
impossible
here?
if you were by yourself.
How about if you use your teeth?
Okay, so what evidence do we
Or
have
if
here?
you
Torture
use your
room, oil
front
lighter,
tail.
Monokuma panels. Like, it's gotta be
Joe, is that a dirty
the
joke?
burned rope, right? Like, what does this actually say, evidence-wise? The rope that was tied to Nagito's right arm burned off. However, Nagito's right sleeve still looks clean. It's gotta be this. Like, this has to be contradicting something. I don't think it helps the teeth argument. So it's gotta be contradicting one of Fuyuhiko's 2 points.
To actually tie up your own arms and legs.
Well, maybe, okay, he didn't, technically.
No, that's wrong.
Okay. I mean, technically he would have tied both, but he didn't tie up both, technically, because he tied it
Hold
around
on a
his
sec.
arm, but it was
Isn't
never
that
actually
premise flawed?
attached to anything is the thing. So, yeah.
What? I mean, it's no mistake that his arms and legs were...
No, it shouldn't have been both of his arms. The rope on his right arm was completely burnt up. Based on that, you can't say he was tied up.
That was just burned by the fire. He should have been tied up before then.
It burned because of the fire. Like you said, it might look like that. But that was part of the trap. There's concrete evidence that proves it.
So that's the main reason the fire existed then. I suppose. Okay, the proof is, well, it's his right sleeve.
I see.
Take a close look at his right sleeve. Even though the rope was burnt up, his sleeve wasn't burned at all. Wouldn't you agree? A burn like this, no matter how you think about it, is unnatural. That rope was burned in advance so it would look like it was burned in the fire.
Then Nagito's right arm wasn't tied up, right? He was able to move it freely, right?
Yeah, that should be the case.
Hajime, that's awesome! I'll let you cop a feel if you want.
What? Why?
Akane, you should not give it away for free. Make sure they pay you first.
I think that makes it worse.
That's definitely wrong.
Fine. I just gotta get a Benjamin from him before I let him touch me, right?
What?
That's not what I meant.
How'd we get on
I'm
this
talking
topic?
about Nagito.
Oh, yeah.
Even if his right hand wasn't tied up, the knife was still stabbed into it, you know.
I mean, you can stab yourself. That's not impossible.
It's impossible to stab a knife into your right hand with your right hand. Ah, that much is obvious.
You just use the left hand. This is not an issue.
Hajime, you tricked me! Give me back that Benjamin!
I never paid you for any such services. Not only did she try to charge you, now she wants the money back. What the heck?
Hold on. There should be a way.
Then hurry up and spill it.
If it's something lame, I'll make you give back the Benjamin with 10,000% interest.
That can't be legal. Way to stab yourself in your right hand, use only your right hand. Wait, you don't. You just use your left hand. I mean, yeah, it would have been... Like, unless it was, like, driven into the floor or something, so it had to have stabbed that particular part. And you just bring it up... There. Yeah. It's okay, there's definitely an answer for this. It's gotta be the blood on the girder. I'm surprised we don't have...
Even if Nagito's right hand was...
I was expecting to have the, blood on the left hand as evidence here. Do I not?
How could he stab his right hand with his right
Huh.
hand?
If you threw the knife into the air and let the knife fall, could he stab his hand that way?
Is he a throwing knife expert?
Maybe he propped the knife somehow? And slammed his right hand down on it?
Propped it onto what?
If he just propped the knife, he could have used his bound left hand.
If you're tied up, your arms won't bend that easily.
Guess.
We don't know
True.
if his left hand could even reach his right hand.
Okay, I hadn't thought of this. If Nagito could only use his right hand to stab himself in the palm, then how did he do it? Alright, what do we have? We got blood on the garter, we got the panels, we got the oil,
How could he stab his right
We got
hand with his right
the
hand?
plushies, the
If he
knife,
threw the knife into the
the
air
rope, the wounds.
and let the knife fall, could he stab his hand that way?
Hold on, let me look at the evidence here. I don't think the wounds help. Attached to nearby pillars. It's the rope. Survival knife that was stabbed into Nagito's right hand. The knife is from the military base. Could he have done that beforehand? What's just a plushie prove? Bloody hole in its... Wait a minute. A bloody hole in its stomach. What if he, like, buried the knife in the plushie to give it, like, some substance or something? You know, like... He could have... Maybe? It's that or it's the garter, but that doesn't really seem to solve anything here. I think it's gotta be the plushie.
Is he a throwing knife expert?
Well, let me see
Maybe
what...
he propped the knife somehow?
Yeah, on the plushie.
I agree with that.
Okay, we're figuring this out.
The life-size Monokuma plushie. He must have used that to prop the knife.
Makes sense. That's why there was a big hole in the plushie's stomach. He inserted the knife handle into that hole to prop it up. Then he slammed his hand onto it.
And then I guess probably check the plushie afterwards.
If that's it, he had to place the plushie near him. And it also explains the mysterious blood on the plushie.
So the blood on the plushie came from Nagito after he stabbed the knife into his own right hand.
I see. So that's the trick.
It still raises the question, like, why did he do all this?
But for a moment, I seriously thought Monokuma died or something.
And did he intend for us to find him dead, or did he intend for us to find him, like, having just been assaulted or something?
A bleeding plushie is super scary. It's got the same fear factor as a doll whose hair grows too long.
I feel like a doll whose hair grows is scary enough. Just period.
After stabbing his hand, he no longer needed the plushie, so he cast it off toward the fire's origin point.
Hoping it would burn up.
He probably thought the fire would incinerate it and destroy the evidence.
So what do you think now, Fuyuhiko?
I get what you're saying about the wound on his right hand, but there's still one huge problem.
The spear?
The spear. Basically, you're saying Nagito committed suicide by impaling himself with a spear, right? If you think about the order, getting killed by the spear should have been the last thing to happen to Nagito.
Yep.
If that's true, how is that possible?
Sort of Damocles style?
He can't grab a spear with his right hand if a knife is stabbed into it and his left hand was all tied up.
Then he probably took the spear first, and as he endured the pain, he stabbed the knife into his right hand.
No, there'd be blood all over the scene. Also, that just doesn't seem plausible.
There is a limit to his constitution. If you got penetrated by something so big and thick, you would die instantly.
Yes. Kazuichi, shut up.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all that.
Like I said, if you got penetrated by something so big and thick, you would die instantly.
She's not wrong.
Say it one more time. I need you recorded. For reasons.
Can we get back on the topic at hand?
Hey, bastard, you better cut it out.
Like she said, in that condition, It's very difficult to stab yourself with a spear. It'd be hard to use a spear with a knife stab into your right hand, while your left hand is tied up.
Unless you just let gravity do the work, I suppose.
So you're saying it's impossible?
Not necessarily.
But no matter what I think, I can't believe Nagito's death was caused by someone else.
I also agree with that. To think that one of us could kill someone with such cruelty, I could never believe that.
Yeah, I feel like the spear must have fallen on him. The question is, what was the mechanism? Specifically.
You say you can't believe it? You just don't want to believe it, right?
And I guess it does have that, like, long cord. So if that cord is long enough, you could have the spear, like, up at the girder level, have the cord, like, down, and then maybe you can, like, throw it up over to get it to fall or something? Maybe?
But that's why you keep getting betrayed over and over again, right? Same goes for this time, too.
You just shut your mouth. It's against the rules to interfere with everyone.
Oh, Monomi's back.
If you even think about doing anything, I have a plan of my own.
Monami sassing me!
But it's just as Monokuma said. We've been betrayed over and over again so far, so this might also be the same. Calling this a suicide takes too much for granted, and it's too convenient.
Then are you saying there is a killer among us, Kazuichi?
Of course, that doesn't include Miss Sonia and me.
As Kazuichi said, it's true we've been constantly betrayed. But even if I'm betrayed again, I still want to believe in everyone. No matter how many times I may be betrayed, I still want to believe in everyone.
I also want to believe that there's no killer, but suicide is unimaginable.
Do you really think so?
But you said it too. It'd be impossible for him to stab himself with a spear in his condition.
I did say difficult, but I never said impossible.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, that's it. Maybe? If you had the spear slung over the girder, and then just held onto the cord, presuming the spear is heavier than the weight on the other end of the cord, you just hold onto it and then let go. And then you kill yourself with it. Right? It's easy as that. And that explains the weird blood splatter pattern. Because he was holding the cord with his left hand while he was, like, stabbing himself, so that the spear would be ready for when he needed to let go and impale himself. But I still wonder, though, motive. What's the motive here? Like, it just doesn't seem like the sort of thing he would just do like that, necessarily. Especially the post-Chapter 4 Nagito. Nagito in Chapters 1 through 4, or 1 through 3, I could, like, see he was very, self-deprecating. Didn't seem to value his own life to any great extent. But Nagito post-Chapter 4 almost seemed to have a superiority complex, which doesn't really seem to jive with the idea of him just deciding to commit suicide out of the blue. Especially with no specific other threat lurking. Like, the threat in this chapter was Nagito. It's not like there was any big issue or motive that would have pushed him to have to act in a desperate fashion like what happened with Gundam. Huh?
I feel that there's some way he could have stabbed himself with that spear.
What kind of way?
I don't know.
You don't know.
It's impossible to figure out by myself. So let's think about it together. That's how we made it this far up till now.
Everyone working together.
She's right. We've made it through several ordeals up till now by doing that. Then, even now.
All right, let's do this.